There is a version of you that has learned to live in compromise, a version that does just enough to feel busy, but never enough to feel alive, a version that doesn't chase the extraordinary because it has learned to make peace with the ordinary. That version of you has built a home in comfort zones, painted the walls with excuses and called it safety. But the truth, it is not safety. It is slow erosion. It is quiet decay. And if you do not erase it, it will erase you. Not all at once, but one settled decision at a time. Settling is not always loud. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare or regret in the moment. It happens in small ways. The opportunity you turn down because it's inconvenient. The standard you lower because no one else will notice. The dream you shrink because it feels too heavy to carry. You tell yourself you're being realistic. But realism without vision is just resignation dressed in a more respectable name. The danger of settling is not just what it costs you now, it's what it takes from the future you'll never meet. Every time you settle, you're writing a smaller story for yourself, cutting off entire chapters before they've been lived. And the worst part, you begin to believe that's all there ever was for you. This is not the life you were meant to live. You were not born to be an understudy in your own story. You were not born to watch others take the lead while you wait quietly for a turn that never comes. There is a higher, sharper, bolder version of you waiting, but it cannot share the stage with the version of you that settles. One of them must go. Erasing that version starts with recognizing its patterns. It's the voice that tells you to play it safe when opportunity calls. It's the weight in your chest when you think about taking a risk that matters. It's the relief you feel when a challenge passes you by, because deep down, you know you would have turned it down anyway. That is the version you must kill. That is the identity you must strip from your bones. This is not about becoming reckless. It's about becoming unwilling to live half awake. It's about demanding more from yourself than the world demands from you, because the world will let you settle. The world will even reward you for it. It will call you stable, responsible, content. But stability without growth is just stagnation, and contentment without purpose is just comfort in disguise. If you want to live differently, you must act differently, especially in the moments when settling would be easier. You must train yourself to choose the harder yes instead of the easier no. You must learn to recognize the exact moment you start shrinking your vision to fit your fear, and you must stop immediately. Because the moment you stop accepting good enough, your life will stop giving it to you. The version of you that settles is clever. It will never say, "I'm here to ruin your potential." No, it will disguise itself as reason, as patience, as maturity. It will tell you that now is not the right time, that you should wait until you have more money, more connections, more certainty. It will make you believe that postponing your dreams is the responsible choice. But waiting has a cost, and it is always higher than you think. And every day you wait, you train yourself to hesitate. Every time you choose later over now, you strengthen the muscle that resists action. And eventually, hesitation becomes your default. You stop seeing it as a choice at all, so it becomes who you are. Settling isn't just about what you do, it's about what you stop believing is possible. You tell yourself you're being realistic, but really you're lowering your standards so you can avoid the discomfort of chasing them. And the tragedy is that you start designing a life around those lowered standards, surrounding yourself with people, habits, and routines that never challenge you to rise. You have to break that design. You have to walk into your own life like a demolition crew, tearing down the walls you built to keep yourself safe. That means saying yes to things that make you nervous. It means setting goals that require you to become someone new in order to reach them. It means stepping into rooms where you don't feel qualified yet. Because here's the truth, qualification is built in the doing. You don't earn confidence before you start. You earn it by moving before you feel ready. Every person you admire, the builders, the innovators, the leaders, they all have one thing in common. They stopped waiting to feel prepared. They moved anyway. And in moving, they erased the version of themselves that would have settled. Erasing that version of you is not a single act, it's a daily choice. You erase it every time you refuse to lower your standards to match your circumstances. You erase it every time you push through the urge to stop. You erase it every time you choose alignment over approval, growth over comfort, progress over perfection. The world will try to keep you in the version of yourself that settles because it's predictable. You are easier to manage when you're not reaching higher. But the second you decide you will no longer live that way, you will feel the resistance from others, from your own mind, from the habits that have kept you small. This resistance is not a sign to stop. It's a sign you're on the right path. And once you push through it enough times, the version of you that settles won't just be gone, it will be unrecognizable. Settling is seductive because it doesn't hurt right away. It feels soft, familiar. It wraps around you like a blanket and tells you you've done enough for now. It convinces you that you can rest here indefinitely, that you can always start again tomorrow. But here's the reality. The longer you stay in that softness, the heavier it becomes. What felt like comfort starts to feel like chains. And by the time you realize it, you've lost not only time, but the hunger that once drove you. The hunger is everything. It's the force that wakes you early, that pushes you into uncomfortable conversations, that makes you take risks that don't guarantee a payoff. Hunger is what makes life feel alive. And settling is hunger's slow death. You can't keep both. If you keep settling, your hunger will fade until you don't even remember what it felt like to want something with every cell in your body. To erase the version of you that settles, you have to protect that hunger like your life depends on it. Because it does. That means surrounding yourself with people who challenge you, not people who make you feel comfortable staying the same. It means removing habits that numb you, replacing them with ones that sharpen your edge. It means refusing to let yourself get so satisfied with small wins that you stop pursuing the big ones. The weak, settled version of you will fight for its survival. It will tell you that you're asking for too much, that you're being greedy, that you should be grateful for what you have. And yes, gratitude matters. But gratitude without ambition is stagnation. You can be deeply grateful for your life and still demand more from yourself. The two are not enemies. In fact, they make each other stronger. Gratitude keeps you grounded. Ambition keeps you moving. Settling thrives when you separate those two. When you use gratitude as a reason to stop reaching, or ambition without gratitude to constantly feel empty. The balanced mind knows how to hold both. It knows how to look at what is and say, this is good, and look at what could be and say, but I'm not done. You erase the version of you that settles by living in that balance, by appreciating where you stand while refusing to plant roots there, by treating every achievement not as a final destination, but as proof that you can climb higher. Because if you stop climbing, you don't just stay where you are, you begin to slide. Settling isn't a static state. It's decline in disguise. And the only way to stop that slide is to keep moving upward, even when the next step is steep. Especially then, erase the version of you that settles. Protect your hunger. Keep climbing. There is a moment in every person's life when they realize they've been living on autopilot. The days are full, but not fulfilling. The routine is safe, but suffocating. You move from one obligation to the next, telling yourself this is just how life works. That settling is part of being an adult. That's the lie that keeps millions of people from ever touching their true potential. They mistake responsibility for resignation. Responsibility is carrying the weight of what matters. Resignation is carrying the weight of what you've convinced yourself you can't change. One builds strength, the other builds walls. And those walls become the boundaries of your life. They tell you, this is as far as you go. But those boundaries were never real. They were set by the version of you that was too tired, too doubtful, or too afraid to keep going. To erase that version, you have to be willing to break the walls you built for yourself. That means questioning every fact you've accepted about what is and isn't possible for you. It means taking a sledgehammer to the beliefs that have kept you small. even when they've been with you for years. This will feel like tearing down part of yourself, because in a way, it is. But it's the part that was never truly you. The real you doesn't settle. The real you remembers what it feels like to want something so badly you can't sleep. The real you has an instinct for growth that no amount of comfort can suppress. And every time you give that instinct room to breathe, you push the settled version further into extinction. This is not a one-time act. It is a daily war with subtlety. Settling doesn't often announce itself. It hides in the choice to take the easier task instead of the necessary one, in the decision to wait for better timing instead of making the timing better, in the quiet acceptance of good enough when your soul knows it isn't. And the most dangerous part? You can settle even when you're busy. Activity is not the same as progress. You can fill your calendar and still be standing still. That's how the settled version of you survives. It keeps you occupied enough to avoid discomfort, but never engaged enough to change. To erase it, you have to replace busyness with intentional action. Every move you make should connect directly to the future you want. If it doesn't, cut it out, because the version of you that settles will cling to anything that keeps you distracted, no matter how small, no matter how harmless it seems. Erasing that version will require a kind of honesty most people never reach. You will have to admit where you've been lying to yourself, where you've been hiding behind, "I'm doing my best," when deep down you know you've been protecting your comfort more than your potential. And when you admit it, you must act on it immediately. Because every day you don't act is another day the version of you that settles remains alive. And that version is costing you far more than you think. The version of you that settles has a quiet strategy. It lowers the ceiling on your life without you even noticing. It makes you believe that where you are now is pretty good, that there's no need to push harder, no urgency to evolve. It wraps you in phrases like, "be realistic," or "don't get your hopes up," until you begin to think that wanting more is a flaw instead of a calling. And once it has you believing that, it wins. Because a person who stops aiming high stops moving entirely. Settling doesn't just rob you of success, it robs you of identity. It strips away the parts of you that were bold enough to take risks, to dream without permission, to see a bigger life than the one you were handed. And the longer you live in that smaller frame, the more your vision adjusts to it. You start thinking the cage is the world. You stop trying to fly because you've convinced yourself your wings were never meant to work. But they were. They still are. And the only reason they feel heavy now is because you've let them rust from disuse. The moment you start moving again, really moving with intent and urgency, you'll remember what it feels like to lift off. Erasing the version of you that settles means deciding that good enough is a dangerous trap. It's not the opposite of failure. It's the breeding ground for it. Because when you live at good enough, you become blind to how much more there is to gain. You stop seeking, stop stretching, stop growing. And growth doesn't wait for you. If you're not reaching for it, you're losing it. You cannot live in both worlds, the world of comfort and the world of expansion. One will consume the other. If you choose comfort, expansion dies quietly in the background. If you choose expansion, comfort fights back, but eventually it becomes something far better, peace. Not the peace that comes from avoiding the hard things, but the peace that comes from knowing you're living at full capacity. That's why erasing the version of you that settles starts with a vow to never again betray yourself by lowering your standards to match your circumstances, a vow to never again call fear practicality or laziness self-care, a vow to measure your days not by how easy they felt, but by how aligned they were with the future you want to build. And when you live by that vow, something remarkable happens. The settled version of you can't survive in your presence. It relies on hesitation, and hesitation no longer lives here. It thrives on excuses, and excuses find no audience here. It feeds on doubt, and doubt has been starved by proof. You will know it's gone the day you face a choice between the comfortable option and the right option, and you don't even hesitate. The version of you that settles survives on hesitation. It lives in the pause between knowing what you should do and actually doing it. That pause is its breeding ground. Every second you linger there, it gathers strength. It fills your head with reasons to wait, with reminders of past failures, with questions designed to make you doubt yourself. And once doubt takes root, action dies. You have to close that gap. You have to train yourself to move the moment you know what's right, not after you feel ready, not after you've mapped out every outcome, not after you've talked it over with 3 other people. Immediately, because speed is a weapon against the part of you that settles. It doesn't give it room to breathe, to twist your thinking, to lure you back into the familiar. This is not recklessness, it's precision. It's learning to trust your instincts because you've sharpened them through action. The more you act, the more you prove to yourself that you can handle what comes next. And the more you prove it, the less influence your settled self has over you. But here's the truth. Erasing that version of you will require more than action. It will require a complete redefinition of your identity. Settling is not just a habit, it's a self-image. It's the quiet agreement you made with yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. And as long as you keep that agreement, you will keep living the same life. To break it, you have to rewrite the story entirely. You have to decide that you are no longer the kind of person who stops at good enough. You are no longer the kind of person who avoids risk just because it might lead to failure. You are no longer the kind of person who lets opportunity pass while you weigh your comfort. This new story must be so ingrained that it overrides the old one in every decision you make. You must be able to say to yourself, I don't settle. That's not who I am anymore. And have your actions immediately prove it. It will feel unnatural at first. The old version will pull hard. It will tempt you to compromise just this once. But the moment you give in, you hand it the pen to write your story again. And if you let it keep writing, it will give you the same ending it always has, a life half lived. So you burn the old script. You destroy every sentence that starts with I can't, or I'm not ready, or maybe later. You replace them with I will, I am, and now. And you don't just say them, you prove them again and again, until the old story fades so far into the background that you can't even remember what it felt like to live by it. That is how you erase the version of you that settles, by refusing to give it a single moment, a single choice, a single breath of your life ever again. There will come a time when the pull of the settled version of you is strongest, and it won't be when you're struggling. It will be when things are going well. Success has a way of making you slow down, loosen your grip, ease up on the very habits that built you. That's when the old self sees its opening. It doesn't come back with force. It slips in quietly. It tells you, you've earned a break. You've done enough. You can relax now. And before you know it, the edge you fought so hard to sharpen starts to dull. This is the most dangerous stage of all because it feels harmless. You're still moving forward, but slower. Your standards are still high, but not as high. You're still disciplined, but now you negotiate with yourself just a little. That's all the space the settled version needs. It doesn't need you to fall apart. It just needs you to stop pressing. Erasing it for good means guarding your progress like it's your life, because it is. You don't lower your standards when you're ahead. You raise them. You don't slow down when the road is clear. You speed up. You don't stop sharpening your skills when you're winning. You refine them until there's no gap for the old self to slip through. This is how you make transformation permanent. You replace the temporary fire of motivation with the steady heat of commitment. Motivation can fade. Commitment doesn't. Motivation can be stolen by a bad day. Commitment doesn't care about the day. It doesn't care about your mood, your comfort, or your excuses. It only cares about the standard you swore to uphold. The version of you that settles hates commitment because it has nowhere to hide in it. Commitment leaves no space for just this once. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't bend to your feelings. It stands unshakable, even when you're tempted to run back to the familiar. And here's the truth most people never realize. The longer you live without settling, the less tempting it becomes. At first, it feels like a fight every day. Then it feels like a fight every week. Then every month. Until one day, it's not a fight at all. You've built a new default. You've built a new identity. You've erased the old version so completely that it feels like a stranger you once knew but will never speak to again. That's when you'll know you've won. Not because you reached a single milestone, but because you became the kind of person who will never again live beneath their potential. You'll look at the life around you, the opportunities you've seized, the skills you've mastered, the self-respect you've built, and you'll know it all began the moment you refuse to settle one more day. The version of you that settles is always waiting for your guard to drop, and it doesn't care how much progress you've made. It knows that no matter how far you've come, one season of complacency can undo years of discipline. That's why this fight is never truly over. Erasing the settled self isn't about one dramatic decision. It's about never letting it back in. You see, settling is a master of disguise. It won't always look like quitting. Sometimes it will look like taking a breather. Sometimes it will look like choosing the easier option just to save energy for later. Sometimes it will come disguised as comfort you've earned, a comfort that slowly turns into the very cage you broke out of. If you don't stay awake to this, you'll fall back into it without even realizing it's happening. That's why your life must be built on principles, not moods. Moods change, principles don't. When you live by principles, your decisions aren't up for debate every time you're tired, stressed, or tempted. You already know the answer before the choice appears. And that certainty is what keeps the old version from gaining a foothold. One of those principles must be this: I do not settle. Not in my work, not in my relationships, not in my standards for myself. Because settling isn't just about what you accept from the world. It's about what you accept from yourself. And the second you accept less from yourself than you're capable of, you begin to train the world to do the same. When you live without settling, people will notice. Some will be inspired, others will be threatened. You will hear them say, "It's okay to slow down," or "You're too hard on yourself," or "Don't push so much, you might burn out." And you'll know exactly what that is. It's the language of the settled. It's the comfort they've chosen for themselves, and they want you to choose it too so they can feel safe in their own decision. But you're not here for safe. You're here for more. And here's the truth. Refusing to settle will cost you. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you approval. It will cost you relationships that can't keep up with your pace. But it will give you something far more valuable: the life you were meant to live. A life where you wake up knowing you're fully engaged, fully alive, and fully in control of your own story. When you erase the version of you that settles, you start living in a way that doesn't just change your results, it changes who you are at the core. And that change, that's permanent. Once you've lived at your full capacity, you can't unknow what it feels like. You can't pretend you're satisfied going back. You'll see the cage for what it is, and you'll never step inside it again. There will be a day, and you will know it instantly, when you realize the version of you that settled has been erased. It won't be marked by a grand announcement. There will be no crowd cheering, no flashing lights. It will happen in the quiet of an ordinary moment. You will face a choice, one that the old you would have avoided, postponed, or watered down. And without hesitation, you will choose the harder, truer path. And in that instant, you will feel it, the shift, the deep knowing that you are no longer who you were. From that moment on, you will carry yourself differently, not with arrogance, but with an unshakable certainty. You will no longer wonder if you are capable. You will know you are. You will no longer ask if you deserve more. You will live like you do. And people will feel that difference before you even speak. But the real victory is not in how the world sees you. It's in how you see yourself. You will be able to look in the mirror and know without question that you have earned your own respect, that you didn't take the easy road when the hard one was the right one. that you didn't trade long-term fulfillment for short-term comfort, that you refused to betray your potential, even when no one else would have known. And when you live this way, something remarkable happens. Life starts to open in ways it never has before. Opportunities begin to appear that were always there, but you couldn't see them from the mindset of the settled self. Relationships deepen because you bring your whole self to them, not the diluted version. Your work sharpens, your vision expands, your days feel fuller, not because you have more, but because you are more. The settled self was never your protector. It was your jailer. It kept you from risk, yes, but it also kept you from reward. It kept you safe, but only in the smallest, most suffocating sense of the word. Erasing it is not the loss your old mind feared it would be. It's the liberation your soul has been waiting for. This is the life you were meant to live, a life where you are fully present, fully engaged, and fully awake to your own power. And if there is one truth to carry forward from this moment on, it is this: you cannot keep the settled self and live the life you're capable of. One of them has to go, and once it's gone, you will never for a single moment wish it back. There will come a time when you are standing at the edge of your own life, not the life you've been living by default, but the life you fought for, carved out, and built with deliberate choice. And in that moment, you will realize something powerful. Erasing the version of you that settles was never about becoming someone else. It was about returning to the person you were always meant to be before fear, doubt, and convenience buried them under layers of compromise. The settled self will try to haunt you from time to time, showing up in whispers when you're tired, tempting you with the comfort of the familiar. But you'll recognize it instantly now. And recognition is power. You won't need to wrestle with it anymore because you'll see it for what it is. A ghost with no weight, no authority, no claim on your future. You'll remember the days when settling felt like the only option. When you told yourself you'd do it later so many times that later never came. When you let opportunities slip because you thought you weren't ready. When you lived in the middle where it was safe but suffocating. And you'll feel grateful. Grateful you walked away from that version. Grateful you stopped negotiating with your own limitations. Grateful you didn't let another year pass in quiet resignation. Now, every morning is a declaration. You wake up with the knowledge that your standards are non-negotiable. You act without waiting for the right mood. You move with purpose, not because someone is watching, but because you've learned the truth. You are watching. And you refuse to live in a way that would make you lose your own respect. And here is the most important thing. Once you have erased the version of you that settles, you have a responsibility, not just to yourself, but to the world, to show others what's possible when you stop living small, to be the proof that transformation isn't luck, talent, or timing, it's choice, daily, deliberate, disciplined choice. So let this be the moment you draw the line. No more half efforts, no more almosts, no more trading your potential for a little more comfort. Erase that version of you completely. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Because the life you want will not come to the version of you that settles. It will come to the version that refuses to. And once you become that person, everything changes. The world makes way for those who dare to rise. Click the Rise button now to subscribe and claim the destiny waiting for you. Your time is now.